What's up, everybody? This is Edward back with another video. Yo, this is probably gonna be very windy, very fucked up. It's just a little blog I'm doing, so don't mind that. It is what it is. But I just wanted to really put some of my, I already put my thoughts down, but I wanted to reinforce them a little bit when it comes to the damn, um, this idea of like a lot of these perspectives. So I was listening to a Roger Report, and I hopped on for a second, and it was a very good conversation. It's been a lot of really good conversations been going on. It's been a lot of trending news that's been going on. It's definitely a good time to be if you're like a new YouTuber or somebody that's really looking to get some growth out of your channel. It's definitely a lot of stuff that's going on. I mean, the 2020s are going hard, but you know, you know, when you have talked about these conversations as long as I have, and you've reinforced this stuff as long as I have, let me give you an example. I used to be on BGS Igmore shit for like what? We say 7 hours. I would say an average of probably 5.5 hours. And the reason why I would do that is because on those Saturdays I would Uber. So I was literally working while I was literally working or making money while I was on those streams, listening on streams, talking on those streams, right? So 5.5 hours times 52 weeks. So let's just say 5.5 hours average. 5 hours average times 50. What is 5 times 50? That is what? 200 and 2,500. So you talk about 2,500 hours over the course of what I'd probably say at least 2 years. You could argue three. So you're talking about probably 6,000 hours, and we're just talking on the Saturdays. We're not talking, once I created my own channel. We're just talking on the side. This is actually all of this is almost before I created my own channel. This is just me commentating on BGS's shit in those hour hangouts. We're not even talking about some of the off hangouts. That's how many hours that I've spent in intense. I'm talking about dealing with folks like Angry Man, Charles Faulkner. Shout out to Ulysses. Shout out to Mike B. Shout out to my Young Grizzly. We're talking about dudes that are very intelligent, dudes that are doing shit either on their own individual level for business or doing some high IT shit. Shout out to Ulysses with the hemp stuff. We're talking about people that's doing real shit. We're talking about older people, younger people. Between let's just call it the 25 to like 45 realm with a couple of people older than that, like BGS. Like real fucking talk. We're talking about your shit is getting called out. Your shit is getting put to task. You don't get to just slide shit in there and then that shit does not get addressed. We're talking about intense debate. And I'm not talking about on some asshole shit. And a lot of the shit was very highbrow shit. Some of the shit was fun shit. But real shit, right? And we're talking about, like, I could argue I got 7,000 hours under my belt with that. Now, I'm not saying that means what my shit says is over other people's shit. That has nothing to do with that. What I'm saying is, though, is when you have a lot of people and they make some of these points that they make, I understand people have to come to stuff that they have to come to. I get that, because I had to come to stuff. But understand that a big reason why it sounds like I'm always cutting people off is because I can literally predict what has been said because it's been said over and over and over and over again before. It's that much, and I'm usually right when I'm predicting what somebody's gonna say because I already know where they're going with it, and that's a fault of mine. I need to stop doing that because I know doesn't mean the audience knows, and that's not really good from an audience standpoint. So I understand that, and I understand the criticism that comes along with that. But when it comes down to this idea of, the starting point, a lot of times we're on two completely different planets. You have people that come to this where they say, okay, at the end of the day, I understand you're saying this is bad, but real talk, it's not so bad that you just can't ignore it and it fix itself. When we talk about culture, shout out to the Ramil's hang out with BGS as well. Because people would think I'm more talking about Gab. No, this actually first jumped up with Ramil. Ramil was saying the stuff he was saying. The same stuff Ramil was saying was a lot of the same stuff I was saying like 4 years ago. It was the same exact shit. Before I understood that culture was the issue, and because I knew that the shit was not working. I said this logically makes sense. but for some reason this shit is not working. Why is it not working? And then I come to figure out it's a culture problem. It is a mental issue. Now that has nothing to do with talking about women all day every day and not doing more doing than talking, because a lot of people do more talking than doing, and you get further doing the doing versus talking, but the talking is very important. If you're just online and you're just hearing this shit and you're not really taking action with this shit, then it's irrelevant. It's just infotainment, and that's not useful. But if you're actually seeing this in the real world and you're able to see the real world through a different lens and able to move through it, that's when it becomes very useful. So there is something to be said about people that say too much talking is going on, and too many people absorbing shit and not really, doing anything with it. There's something to be said with that. But my point really, as far as black men to black women, is you have a lot of dudes that they can't see shit for really what it is because it's way too painful. They can't see shit for what it really fucking is because it is way too painful. Because if they see it that way, they will come to a realization in their minds that you can't overcome that because it just looks too bad. It's too bad. And so what they do is they always try to softball it or make it seem like it's not as bad as what it is. And that's why, I asked Gab a simple question. I said, do black men have a hard time viewing the humanity of their women? The answer is no, because black men are mainly raised by their mothers, and we're taught to care more about our moms than our dads. Absolutely. And I asked them a simple question in reverse. Do you think black women have a hard time overall seeing, and keep in mind, when I say the humanity, we're talking about some Holocaust shit. We're talking about some put you in a fucking oven shit. We're talking about seeing you as human beings. I want you to understand how significant that question is. There was a time where it was okay to throw black babies to alligators. And people thought that shit was funny. So, in 2020, it's not that I'm asking a white person, do they see the humanity of black men? We know kind of the answer to that overall. I'm actually asking a black man if a black woman sees the humanity. And, the answer was, to be fair, was that can be improved. The answer is no, as BGS would say. With some exceptions, but overall, we're talking about a 70% no. And understanding that, when that really hits you home, all these other conversations, when you understand that people are operating on that base code, I don't understand how you can even have a conversation about anything else. I don't understand how you can actually say believe that needs to be improved. We're not talking about, do you see black men from an authority standpoint? We're not saying, do you see black men from a men's standpoint? We're saying, do you see black men from a human standpoint? And if that answer is not an obvious yes, then everything else just doesn't matter. I don't understand. You can't show me any other group of men that will actually deal with any other group of women under those same circumstances, unless they decide to use things like violence in order to bring them to heal, which most men do. See, the narrative that a lot of women will have is that men give women things and therefore they give and they know that's a lie. But the truth is, men actually basically usurp their women using violence and any tool necessary to do so. Violence, abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse, and then it is that threat that dudes will go back to that base code that usually keeps motherfuckers in check. Black men don't do that. And as a result, you have what you have with how your women act, which they talk about being in fear, yet they operate like they're not in fear. I mean, I'm gonna go back to this Gayle shit in a second, because I want to break that, because I'm gonna break down some articles of some people that they're trying to cape. They're trying to say, well, this is ethical journalism and y'all are just mad. And I want to break those articles down around her, because there's some news here. Apparently she's crying, apparently she's upset, nobody gives a fuck. Apparently she's getting death threats, nobody gives a fuck. You got a woman that is dead, that her husband all of a sudden died out of nowhere and a child died. I can give less than a fuck about Gayle and her feelings being upset after the shit she did. People let that shit go with R. Kelly because that was R. Kelly. She must have took that as that's just what you do. So that little smiling, I'm upset crap, I hope the fear of God gets put in her. Like, for real. I hope she has a psychological breakdown. Like, I want her to be in stress, in maximum stress, constantly for a while, because that needs to be shown that that shit is not cool, what she did. But the point is, if we're not on the same page, and when people talk about, well, I want to have a conversation, I'm all for having a conversation, but part of me is kind of like Keith Lamont and like Grinch too. Is no, what's the point of the conversation? What is the point? What I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't need to bring somebody to where I'm at. You're either where I'm at or you're not. And if you're not, that's either acceptable depending on what we're trying to get done, or it's not acceptable. This idea that, we need to have this prolonged conversation for growth, man, the house is burning. Like, we're really past the point. We're pretty much past the point of no return, according to Dr. Claude Anderson. So this, like, we need to get people on the same page. No, fuck that. What needs to really happen? Jason Black, a pro-black dude, said it great. He said the age of warnings is over. Now it's time for the age of consequences. He was mainly talking about black people cooning. The age of warnings are over. Now it's time for the age of consequences. Meaning there is not going to be no, we need to have a conversation. Now it needs to be just cuts. Anyway, I'm going to do a stream. So I just wanted to put that out there. So peace out.